today is all about scheduling and planning your resources and your studio planning. I just want to also just dip into some other parts of visual effects coordinating and just give you another little insight of visual effects producing, which just to give you an idea what's involved in being a coordinator and a producer rather than just being focused on just the tools. So created a nice little slide again. It's only like 3 pages this one, so don't worry. And again, I just want to touch on this whole bidding hours. Now, I did tell you I'm going to mention the word bidding quite a lot because bidding's pretty much what you pretty much do as a producer and a coordinator. But mainly a producer, especially when you're adding, how much time it takes to do a shot or how much time you want to estimate on doing a shot. Typical bidding hours are pretty much, it's 8 hours for a working day. Now, that also depends on the studio you work at. Some studios like to consider 10 hours as a working day. But, on an average, it's 8 hours is considered as a working day. And in F-Track, the default setting is 8 hours as well. So, 0.8 hours is 8 hours in a working day, or 1.0 is 1 full working day. And I'm going to show you later in this class on how you can switch your spreadsheet to show whether it's hours or days. Some studios like to show just hours, some studios like to show in days. A little tip is not really good idea to add 0.1 for a task. Now, you're probably thinking, yeah, this is a simple paint out task or a simple wire removal task or something that probably takes really quick for someone to do. I never put 0.1 for a task. I always put a minimum 0.5 because if you think about it, by the time the artist gets a grip with the shot, paints it out, render the shot out, and then review it, and then put it through dailies, and then there might be client feedback, you're talking more than an hour. So you don't want to underbid, and that's a little tip I will give everyone: is never underbid. And of course, you're always up against other studios, and you're trying to provide the most competitive bid, obviously, to win the job. But you're better off bidding as accurate as you can as opposed to underbidding. So if something takes an hour, just put 0.5. And hey, if the artist does get it done like less than 0.5, then you have those days which you can allocate to other areas which you are struggling to reach the deadline or struggling in terms of hours used up. So that's always a little tip I always give everyone. And also the artist, of course, will be logging their hours. And obviously the artist can log 0.1, 0.2 because they're logging actual spent hours. But when you're bidding or projecting your hours, try not to project something like 0.1 because it's never, like I said, never actually happens 0.1. So yeah, so that's a little tip there. Also, it's nice to, also it's worth mentioning that the VFX coordinator's job, it doesn't just involve in managing the database. You also have to get shots out to the client or to editorial. And one of the jobs that a VFX coordinator does is pretty much tracks where the data is going, where the information is going. So for example, you may have a deliverable this week and editorial or the production company or the client would like to get these shots in an edit because they want to screen something to the director, or they just want to review shots in the edit. So one thing most coordinators I know do is you have a hard drive and you make sure you put a stick on the hard drive, you put a log date on there or log time on there or a log code so that you can track that on the spreadsheet. And usually you want to have your deliverables here. So I usually create a little quick spreadsheet and I have a shot number. These are all the shots I'm delivering on that hard drive. These are the version numbers and this is the date it was left. Sometimes I don't use a drive. Sometimes I put things on the virtual server, some like WeTransfer or Dropbox. You should still log that, and the reason for that is because as you get towards crunch mode, you're going to find that things will start slipping and version numbers start going all over the place, and the editors are having 3 drives that are received from you and you've still got 2 drives missing. You need to track that because the main person that gets asked the question is where is this deliverables or where's this drive or what's the status of the delivery of this drive. It's the VFX coordinator that needs those answers. And the last thing as a VFX coordinator you want to be doing is you do not want to be in a position where a client's asking you or phoning you and saying, did you deliver these 2 shots? You want to be able to give those answers straight away, and by tracking this on a simple spreadsheet like this, it helps. But the reason I'm showing this to you is because recently, for about a year now, I haven't needed to get the coordinators to actually create a spreadsheet. They can actually do that within F-track, which I'll show you how to do that as well, just by adding a column. So it's very useful. But this is just wanted to give you an insight of what a coordinator also does as part of his or her job, is tracking, plates coming in, plates going out. And, basically the thing that you want to make sure is whatever comes in should come out the same way. So for example, if a shot is 100 frames, you should deliver 100 frames, and that would include handles. So it's very important for that, because again, the coordinator will be the point of contact with the editorial or the production company that's receiving the visual effects shots. Lastly, although this is not really production centric, I always think it's very important that production is very aware of this, and that is the slate. Now remember, anything that comes into the studio and anything that goes out of the studio to the client, it's usually production's responsibility. So for example, if you're delivering shots, the last thing you want is for your client to say, what am I looking at, or what is this shot, or what version of this shot. So the slate is very important. Now, I've worked in a few studios where the coordinator is usually adding slates in the visual effects edit. These days, if you're using Nuke, Fusion, or whatever composite tool you want to use, you can generate that slate on the fly. Or you could be using things like Deadline, which is the render manager, to do that sort of thing. But it always comes down to the coordinator or production that has to ensure that it's the right data on there. And the slate can be very simple. If you're a small company, you may not have the luxury of having things like Deadline to render out your slates, or having someone that knows Python or a bit of scripting or whatever. So you can do something simple just by having like the project name, the date, the logo, a frame counter. Very important to have a frame counter per shot, so that the client can make notes per frame. And as we showed in one of the classes, I think it was class 3, that when you're doing reviews on F-track, they're pretty much referencing the frame numbers. It's very important to have that here. Lastly, the shot number, which I usually, most shows that I produce, I always ensure that whatever is printed on the slate is the nuke comp, or the actual comp file. So for example, if the client goes back a few versions, then I could always get the artist to pull up the nuke script or the comp script with that correct version, which is why it's very important that your file name for your nuke scripts reflects the file name that's in F-track. It also reflects the file name that's on the slate. So therefore, the version control's easily managed, but also everyone's talking the same language. And also, if we do have that scenario where the client says, I like version 4, even though we're in version 6, you can pull up that comp version 4 and re-render that, or make amends on that. It's very important that coordinators understand this in terms of like what's on the slate.